us. Alec Lasley's with us. Charlie Miller's with us. Lots of basketball, Indiana basketball, of course, down in the Bahamas, taking on BC Mega tonight, Alec, at 7:30. And for those who aren't familiar with BC Mega, before we left in the break a second ago, I told everyone that I think since 2014, they've had 14 picks into the NBA draft. I think, is that right?
Yeah, they had one or two before 2014, but since 2014 hit, they've had, I think, at least two players drafted in every single draft except for like two of them. I think 2020 was the only draft that I don't think they had a single player. But since 2014, they've at least had one, if not two players drafted. And most of them are, I think 5 or 6 are still rotational players, if not better, in the NBA. So a lot of people, I think, are kind of underplaying the talent that BC Mega has had in the past and still currently has. They still have a lot of really, really talented players. And again, they're a professional team, which no matter where you're playing, no matter who's on that roster, a professional roster is still going to be better than a college roster, no matter where you're playing. So I think people need to have those expectations going in that this is a learning experience for Indiana. And no matter what the outcome of the games are, it's going to benefit Indiana going into this season.
I'll tell you right now, having Charlie Miller here right now after that statement you just made is perfect. Charlie has been on both ends of that and knows exactly what you're talking about and the differences of being on each end of that. Charlie, all I got to do is lob that softball up to you, man. Knock her out of the park.
I might switch hit on that one.
Go lay down a left-hand bunt.
Having fun. No. What I'm really looking forward to hearing about is when you have a program like a BC Mega. Alec, you said it, they're professionals. So the way they are going to approach this game is going to be slightly different. And one thing that also BC Mega may have that we don't have is they're going to have a lot of continuity. If you're bringing the same players that's probably been with you, probably 1 or 2 players are probably testing out, who knows, but they know their system. And there's going to probably be a lot of trust because that's what's happening at the professional level. It's like what Nick Saban would say, do your job, you do your role. So I think it'd be really good for our players to, as Coach Mike Wilson was talking about, galvanize, play together, see what happens, explore, but you're going to play against professionals. And I think I mentioned this before, Jim, Alec, I would love to hear your take on this. I feel the referees are going to swallow that whistle. That whistle will not be blown as much. And I think that's going to probably be something that was probably talked proactively. Hey, let our guys play through this. You know, it's a practice in a sense. We got to see where we're at. So I think the temperament of certain players like Xavier Johnson, I just read about, the mental side of the game with him and Dane Fife, talking about, hey, you've been taken out of games because of your tendencies of reaction towards what you can't control. So I'm curious to hear about those little things because that's what's going to play a big role coming up in the season opener and then when you get to the Big Ten.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, you heard about it in the.
You both can't comment on. I know that was I know it was a lot. I'm sorry. I just
that was
it. I went back in the day and grabbed it from behind, and I'm joking.
That was it.
No, you're absolutely right though, because in the Olympics, the U.S. national team said the exact same thing, that the refs don't call as much as they do in the NBA, and they weren't used to that. And I think that's the biggest thing when you do play against a lot of these European teams is they're just so much more physical than a lot of the U.S. players are used to, because they get that physical play over in the States here, but it tends to be a foul, and they're looking for that foul. And so when they search out that body contact, they're not ready to have to play through it. And especially if you look at 17, 18, 19-year-olds that Indiana has a lot of going up against 24, 25, 26 plus year olds for BC Mega, not only is the body structure going to be entirely different, but just the style of play and the mentality is going to be different. So yeah, I mean, you're going to have to definitely change the way that you're approaching this game for Indiana. But I think that's only going to benefit them going into the Big Ten, where it is a more physical style of play. So if they're going to be used to whistles maybe not being blown as much as usual, they're already going to be prepared for that. So that's why it's just going to be super beneficial for any outcome that happens this week.
That's the first thing that I was thinking about was the Big Ten play. I mean, throughout the season, which is odd though, Charlie, because they've got to get through a season where you have to beat and bang. And I think that Coach Whitson has openly said he has told the officials to swallow the whistles. But you've got to get through a season where you have to do this, but then you have to be able to adjust. And I hate to use them as an example, but they're just the easiest punching bag for this right now is Purdue in the tournament last year. You could say the Big Ten as a whole, but their game particularly showed that they were a one-dimensional team and were just caught off guard when it was a Texas Southern, I can't remember, punched him in the mouth with
North
their
Texas,
speed.
yeah.
North Texas. They were just smaller but faster, and Purdue was just the whole time like, what just happened? They went from this Big Ten style of play where it's lumbering and big boys and battling, beating, and it wasn't that, and they got caught off guard. So you've got to be able to play both, and I think that Coach Woodson is trying to build that. When we hear talk about Race Thompson grabbing a rebound and bringing the ball up the floor, top tempo, getting it going. And that's exactly what he's talking about, using it both ways, which is exactly what you're going to have to do. And I think that puts him a step ahead already.
Well, and I think in a sense, I mean, what you're talking about, what Alec talked about, you just got to, for me, you got to be open to adjust and adapt to the situation, because what better way to get tested than play against a bunch of professionals, right? And they're gonna be witty and cagey, meaning seasonal. They're gonna get little knick-knack fouls. They're gonna know how to do small things. That's gonna teach us a lot of lessons. Whether the scoreboard is turned on or off, I think that's gonna pay dividends for us, because now we're also gonna have feedback. We're gonna have performance feedback. We're gonna have film. You're gonna have actual film as early as August. You can draw on to actually make your practices that much more better. That's what I like about the situation. Wins and losses, almost like just like what Coach Popovich says with the USA team. It's good that we lost. It's good, right? It's because it's good, because what I want to see, again, I'm not saying anybody's gonna do this. Foul's not called. Palm's gonna go up. Hey, that's a foul. That little small stuff that just lingers to the next play, or is it going to be next play, best play mentality? That's kind of what I'm after. I know I may not be able to see that, but I just want to hear about that.